Okay, so you want to buy a professional sports team. Sounds simple. Write a check, get a jersey with your name on the back, sit courtside forever. But here's the strange part. Sports teams are some of the worst performing assets on paper. Some lose money every single year, on purpose. And they're also some of the best investments in the history of money. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it costs to own a team in every major American league. Why the league itself gets a vote on whether you're allowed to buy it, how a franchise that loses money every season can still make its owner a billionaire, and why the smartest move in professional sports has nothing to do with winning. Let's start with the price list, because it depends entirely on which league you're buying into. The NFL is the most expensive club in America to join. In 2023, Josh Harris bought the Washington Commanders for $6.05 billion, the largest sale price for a sports franchise in U.S. history at the time. That's the ceiling. The floor isn't much lower. Small market NFL teams still trade in the $3 to $4 billion range because there are only 32 of them, and the league almost never expands. The NBA is close behind. In 2023, the Phoenix Suns sold for $4 billion after their previous owner got forced out. We'll get to that. Smaller market teams like the Charlotte Hornets have gone for around $3 billion. Major League Baseball is cheaper, but still enormous. The Mets sold for $2.4 billion in 2020, and the NHL is the discount league of the four, with franchises trading between $650 million and $1.5 billion, though even that discount would buy you a small country's Air Force. Now, here's the first thing nobody tells you. You can't just be rich, you have to be approved. Every league has an ownership committee, and every sale needs a supermajority vote from the other owners. 24 out of 32 in the NFL, 23 out of 30 in the NBA. You're not just buying a team, you're being voted into a private club by people who already own one, and they can say no for almost any reason they want. Steve Ballmer needed league approval to buy the Los Angeles Clippers in 2014 for $2 billion, and he got it fast, because the alternative was letting Donald Sterling keep the team after his racist remarks became public and the league forced a sale. That's the other way in. Sometimes a seat only opens up because someone else gets thrown out. Once you're approved, the second cost hits you before you've sold a single ticket to the venue. In most of these leagues, you either own the stadium or you're renting from a city that renegotiates against you every few years. Building a new stadium from scratch runs $1.5 to $2 billion for an NFL venue, like SoFi Stadium, which cost $5 billion and was financed almost entirely by the owner, Stan Kroenke, not the public. Cities used to hand out stadium subsidies like candy. Now, after decades of studies showing those subsidies barely pay for themselves, that money is harder to get, which means more of the bill lands on you. So where does the actual money come from? This is where sports teams stop looking like normal businesses. The core revenue split in every league is media rights, and it's the single biggest number in this entire industry. The NFL's national TV deals with CBS, Fox, NBC, ESPN, and Amazon are worth over $110 billion combined through 2033. That money gets split 32 ways evenly, whether your team wins the Super Bowl or loses every game. Every NFL owner collects roughly $400 million a year before selling a single hot dog. That's the house edge of professional sports, guaranteed revenue that has nothing to do with performance. On top of that sits local revenue, ticket sales, luxury suites, parking, concessions, local sponsorships, and, increasingly, jersey patch deals and stadium naming rights. A naming rights deal alone can bring in $20 to $30 million a year, guaranteed for 2 decades. Add it up, and a mid-tier NFL team is pulling in $500 to $600 million a year in total revenue before the season even starts mattering. Here's the part that breaks people's brains. Plenty of these teams report an operating loss every year, not because they're bad businesses, because the accounting is designed that way. Team owners can depreciate the roster itself, the players, as an asset that loses value over time. the same way you'd depreciate a fleet of trucks. That depreciation gets written off against revenue, which means a franchise can generate hundreds of millions in real cash while showing a loss on paper. It's one of the most famous tax structures in American business, and it's completely legal. The team isn't losing money. The spreadsheet is just built to say that. Now, the payroll. This is the biggest single operating cost, and every league puts a ceiling on it, a salary cap, specifically so you can't just outspend everyone else into a championship. In 2025, the NFL cap sits around $255 million per team. The NBA has something even more aggressive called the luxury tax. Go over the cap and you don't just pay your players more. You pay the league a penalty on top, dollar for dollar, sometimes multiple dollars for every dollar over. Repeat offenders pay what's nicknamed the repeater tax, which can double or triple the bill. That's why even billionaire owners think twice before chasing a superstar. Add coaching staff, front office, scouting, medical and performance staff, stadium operations, security and travel, and a franchise's total operating cost runs $350 to $450 million a year, depending on the sport. Subtract that from revenue, and most profitable teams are clearing somewhere between $50 and $150 million a year in actual free cash flow, before the depreciation tricks even come into play. But cash flow was never the real game. The real game is appreciation. Forbes has tracked NFL franchise values rising an average of 15 to 20% per year over the last decade, far outpacing the stock market. The Buffalo Bills sold for $1.4 billion in 2014. A decade later, comparable franchises are valued north of $4 billion. That's not because the team got better. It's because there are only 32 of these assets in existence. They almost never come up for sale, and every billionaire in the world wants one. Scarcity is the entire business model. Let's talk about who actually loses at this game, because it happens more than people think. Robert Sarver owned the Phoenix Suns for 18 years. In 2022, an NBA investigation found a pattern of workplace misconduct, and instead of waiting to get voted out, he sold the team for $4 billion, a franchise he'd bought in 2004 for $401 million. Even forced out in disgrace, he made roughly 10 times his money. That's how strong the underlying asset is. It survives the owner. Then there's the opposite story, someone who never even got in. In 2018, a group led by rapper and entrepreneur Jay-Z attempted to buy a stake in an NFL franchise and was reportedly turned away by the league's ownership structure, which has historically kept its ownership pool almost entirely white and extremely small. As of 2025, there is exactly one black majority owner across all 32 NFL franchises. The barrier to entry isn't just the $4 billion, it's the room deciding who gets a seat at the table, and that room moves slowly. And here's a case that shows what happens when you buy in without doing the math. In 1984, real estate developer Bill Bidwell's family had owned the then St. Louis Cardinals for decades and refused every offer to sell, watching the franchise bleed relevance and revenue in a city that had stopped caring, before finally relocating the team to Phoenix in 1988. Decades of stubborn ownership, chasing pride over strategy, cost the family enormous value they could have captured by selling or moving a decade earlier. In sports ownership, sentiment is the single most expensive luxury you can afford. So, step back for a second. The economics here are almost the opposite of a normal business. A restaurant lives or dies on execution, service, food quality, location every single day. A sports team can lose on the field for a decade, still collect its $400 million in national media money every year, still charge $300 for parking, and still double in value because the asset itself is what people are actually buying. You're not really purchasing a football team. You're purchasing one of 32 keys that will never be cut again. Now, let's actually run the numbers. Two real scenarios. Scenario 1, an NHL franchise, on the cheaper end, purchased for $700 million. Annual revenue, roughly $180 million, mostly from local ticket sales, arena revenue, and a smaller national media deal than the other three leagues. After payroll, operations, and arena costs, net operating profit lands around $15 to $25 million a year. Not enormous on its own, but franchise values in the NHL have still been appreciating 10 to 12% annually. Hold it for 10 years, and the team alone could be worth $1.8 to $2 billion on top of every dollar of operating profit you collected along the way. Scenario 2, an NFL franchise purchased for $4 billion. Annual revenue north of $550 million, split between the $400 million guaranteed national media check and local revenue from tickets, suites, and sponsorships. After a $400 million operating cost, real net profit lands around $100 to $150 million a year. Cash in your pocket before you even factor in the depreciation write-offs lowering your tax bill. Hold that franchise for a decade at a conservative 12% annual appreciation, and it's worth over $12 billion by the time you'd want to sell. That's not a hypothetical. That's roughly the trajectory the Dallas Cowboys have been on under Jerry Jones, who bought the team in 1989 for $140 million. Today, it's valued at over $10 billion, the most valuable sports franchise on the planet, owned by one guy who was told at the time he'd massively overpaid. So if you do decide to buy a professional sports team, just remember the one rule that actually matters in this business. You're not buying a team to win. Winning is optional, and for some owners, it barely factors into the math at all. You're buying a permanent, scarce, unsplittable piece of American culture that a TV network is contractually obligated to pay you for whether anyone likes your team or not. Just make sure the other owners like you enough to let you in the room.